Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the June 2025 SBIF Rollout webinar. We are excited to have you here to talk about the SBIF areas that will be open this month and provide you with more information about what the program has to offer. We will get started momentarily, but as a reminder, those of you attending this webinar today will receive a copy of this presentation via email. And if you would like to rewatch this webinar, you can find it on DPD's YouTube page. If you have any questions during the webinar, please place them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. We will get started momentarily. All right. Hello, everyone again. My name is Latanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the SBIF program at Summer Corps. Welcome to the June 2025 SBIF webinar. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone will receive a copy of this presentation via email. And if you would like to rewatch it, the recorded webinar can be found on DPD's YouTube page. Please let us know if you have any questions during the presentation. There is a Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen, and someone behind the scenes will be responding throughout the webinar, or it will be answered during the Q&A portion of this presentation. With that, I would like to turn it over to Gabrielle Miranda with DPD for a brief introduction.
Thank you for the introduction, Latanya. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Gabrielle Miranda, and I am a coordinator of economic development for the city of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development, otherwise known as DPD. A representative from the city's SBIF program, Administrator Summer Corps, will be joining our presentation today. I just wanted to welcome you and give you a quick overview for what you will be seeing today. The Small Business Improvement Fund, also known as SBIF, provides small grants to businesses and property owners to make needed improvements to their properties. Over the last few years, we have made a lot of exciting changes to the SBIF program, including increasing the size of grants available to you and making new funding available in TIFs across the city that haven't received this before. Technical assistance is a key strength of the SBIF program. When you submit your application, you will be assigned a Summer Corps project manager. That person is there to help you through the SBIF process. If you have questions about the process or run into issues that may delay your project, please call your Summer Corps project manager immediately so that they can answer these questions and help you problem solve as well. Your local delegate agencies are also another great resource to go to if you have any questions or run into any issues or need an extra set of hands for guidance. These local chambers of commerce or community development corporations will be listed in the presentation, and they will also be shared with you at the end of the presentation. Just like Summer Corps project managers, they are there and here to help you. They often can help with the SBIF application or with things like introductions to local lenders and city permits. We are all here to support your application because we want to see your businesses and your communities flourish. With that, I'm happy to introduce Sylvia Orozco, SBIF Director for Summer Corps. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle, and thank you all for joining us today. As she mentioned, my name is Sylvia Orozco. I am the SBIF Program Director. I have assisted hundreds of existing businesses, landlords, and startups over the past 19 years. This program is administered by Summer Corps. Summer Corps is a nonprofit small business lender. We also administer the City of Chicago SBIF program, as well as the NOF program, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program. We are now celebrating its 25th year of SBIF. It is one of the longest running and most successful City of Chicago grant programs. We've helped retain and expand businesses in nearly every neighborhood, dispersing over $119 million to over 2,100 businesses. Please be advised, this is a non-residential program. The grant cannot be used for capital or operating expenses. It is strictly for infrastructure repairs. Again, thank you for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation. So today we will go over what is SBIF, what is the program mission, the grant parameters, and project timeline. Getting started, is your business or property in a SBIF district? Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? And what resources are available to help? We will have a list of the districts that are rolling out for June, as well as a sample project, SBIF facts, and an additional question and answer session at the end. Launched in 1999, the City of Chicago's Small Business Improvement Fund, known as SBIF, promotes economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement costs. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF grants use local tax increment financing, known as TIF, revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair or rehab of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Corps is a program administrator contracted by the Chicago's Department of Planning and Development. Applicant types. Here we have the different types of applicants that are eligible for SBIF. The property must be in a TIF district where SBIF funds are available and is authorized to accept applications. Landlords of commercial or industrial properties qualify for SBIF. Business owners and operators of either commercial or industrial businesses who own the property also qualify. Tenants with prior written approval from the property owner, and startups may apply with a business plan. A current Chicago business license is required. Eligibility. Commercial or industrial businesses that qualify must have $9 million or less cumulative net worth and $500,000 liquidity cannot be exceeded per individual. For commercial tenants or industrial owners, your gross sales per year must be on average of $9 million or less. For industrial tenants or owner-occupied businesses, you're required to have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner-occupied properties are subject to both tenant and landlord requirements. Grant size. $250,000 is the maximum per industrial property. $150,000 is the maximum per industrial commercial property that is occupied by a single owner or tenant. $250,000 is the maximum per commercial property that's occupied by multiple owners or tenants, with $75,000 being the maximum assistance per individual applicant. SBIF applications and SBIF grants are non-transferable between applicants and or properties. Applicants who wish to apply for SBIF funds for more than one property must submit separate applications for each property. The applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. Reimbursements for commercial businesses. If your sales or net worth fall between $0 to $3 million, you'd qualify for 90% reimbursement of eligible cost. If sales or net worth fall between $3 to $6 million, you'd qualify for 60% reimbursement of eligible cost. And if your sales or net worth are between 6 to 9 million, you'd qualify for 30% reimbursement of eligible cost. All industrial projects qualify for 50% reimbursement. Here we have a SBIF grant calculation example. Let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with a total eligible project cost of $100,000. She's proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is a tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales averaged $1.5 million. Here we have a breakdown of eligible costs as follows. So the total eligible project costs are at $100,000. As a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under $3 million, she qualifies for a 90% SBIF grant. The city's responsibility at 90% is $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility at 10% is $10,000. The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so project participants should be prepared with financing to support the cost of the permanent building improvements. Applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender to reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their project in phases rather than covering 100% of the project cost up front. To participate, the grantees must receive an approval for the full scope of work and the phase work schedule. Construction timing will be based on necessity and the contractor's recommendations. Receiving phase disbursements will be based on progress of work. So here we have an example of a phased project. So let's say that this applicant is looking to complete a roof tear-off, install a new HVAC system, and also complete facade renovations. With the contract price of $180,000, the applicant qualifies for 90% reimbursement, which the grant amounts will be maxed out at $150,000. So the applicant does not have $180,000 readily available to spend. However, they do have $60,000. So in this case, they can use that $60,000 to complete the roofing project. With the 90% reimbursement, that will be $54,000 that will be reimbursed to the applicant, and the remaining funds will be held until the next projects are complete. So once the applicant receives that $54,000, they can use that to complete the HVAC work. With the price tag at $40,000, they'll receive a reimbursement of $36,000, which is 90% of the $40,000. So here we can do phases up to 3 different disbursements depending on the progress of the work. SBIF project timeline. So in stage 1, this is the applicant eligibility review stage. Applications are completed within this time frame, and also they prove site control. So you're granted up to 20 days to submit the required items. If deemed eligible, the project will move into stage 2. This is the project eligibility review stage, where you're granted up to 120 days to submit your plans, bids and specifications, as well as contractor's license and insurance, and all debt should be cured within this stage. Stage 3 is the project construction stage. Once approved by DPD, the applicants will receive a conditional commitment letter and the construction can begin. You're granted up to 10 months to complete the construction. Concurrently, the proof of permit or permit application must be submitted within 120 days following the date of the commitment letter. Stage 3.4 is the proof of financing stage. The applicants will be required to provide proof of funds. Again, you're granted up to 120 days following the date of the commitment letter to submit the proof of funding. Stage 4 is the reimbursement stage. This is where the project should be completed at this point. We require payment documentation that should include sworn statements, Invoices, canceled checks, and waivers of lien. They're sent to Summer Court for review. After a final site visit and processing of documents, the reimbursement check will be available within 4 to 6 weeks. Unless DPD has granted an extension, the applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limit will be disqualified and removed from the program. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? To determine eligibility, you can visit our website, chicago.gov/SBIF, to see if your property is in a SBIF district. Once you get to this page, you can click on the locator tool. That will be the first step. That locator tool is then going to take you to this screen here. You can enter your address there. Once you enter the address, it's going to give you specific detailed information that will include the TIF district, the rollout date, and the delegate agencies. So if you're on this page and you feel that you may have received this information in error, please feel free to contact us and we'll verify eligibility for you. Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods on the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which SBIF districts with available funds open for applications. Notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on the DPD and Summer Corps' website, and included in the SBIF grant. Please visit our website for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. What are the SBIF program rules? Here we have a list of ineligible business types that do not qualify for SBIF. These include chain and franchise businesses, bank branches, places of worship, liquor stores, smoke shops, startup bars and taverns, startup banquet halls. These are just to name a few. So if you're not sure whether your business qualifies, you can always reach out and we'll clarify for you. Eligible improvement costs that are covered by SBIF include roofing and facade renovations, components of signs and awnings which are permanently affixed to the building, alterations or structures that are needed for ADA compliance, such as railings, ramps, or ADA compliance restrooms. HVAC and other mechanical systems can be covered, as well as plumbing and electrical work. Certain project-related architectural and construction management fees that are related to the project can also be covered. Permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of adjacent land parcels for purposes of expansion or parking. Design requirements. Applicants for commercial properties that are seeking a grant of $25,000 or greater are required to make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. To receive project approval from DPD, the improvements must conform to DPD's design guidelines. Applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. Key exterior design guidelines reviewed during the approval stage include preserving or recreating the original design with window openings when possible, incorporating permanent signage to clearly identify the business, adequate lighting, especially near entrances to welcome customers, avoiding window clutter. The windows should let in natural light and attract passerbys to business. Other forms of security are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. Applicant compliance. Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they are complying with child support laws and not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt must be cured to participate in SBIF. Applicants can cure a debt via a payment plan. The applicants that are using a payment plan must be in compliance with that to receive any SBIF reimbursement funds. The applicants must be current on property taxes to receive the conditional commitment for funding and reimbursement for completed work. Each applicant must sign an economic disclosure affidavit. The grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business or property within a 3-year period following the disbursement of funds. To be reimbursed, the landlord applicants must have an executed lease with the qualified tenant, and that tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or nonprofit out of the lease space. How do you apply? You can visit the City of Chicago's SBIF website at chicago.gov/SBIF to complete a new online application via Submittable. DPD is now offering an online application option through Submittable. If you have any questions about the new application platform, you can contact Gabadale Miranda at gabadalemiranda@cityofchicago.org. Another option is to visit Summer Corps' SBIF website to complete the PDF application within the open acceptance period. So we're just working on transitioning to an all online application. However, the PDF version is available for a limited time. What resources are available to help? You can visit the Summer Corps' website to access resources to support your SBIF project. You can also connect with your local delegate agency for assistance in filling out your application. So some of the resources that we have available for you are the program rules, a list of licensed contractors, a list of SBIF lenders, the design guidelines, resources for current applicants, and also additional City of Chicago's website that can be translated into just about any other language. I do want to mention the fact that if you reach out to one of the lenders on our website or just about any lender that you prefer, we can sign a bank assignment so that the proceeds of the grant go directly to the lender, and the applicant will then be responsible for paying off the remainder of the loan. So these lenders are familiar with the SBIF program and have actively worked with SBIF recipients in the past. So please feel free to reach out to some of these lenders if financing is not available through your bank. Get to know your local delegate agency. These organizations are assigned to assist small businesses in the SBIF districts that are opening in June. So here we have the list of the delegate agencies per each TIF district. So keep in mind that a copy of the presentation will be sent over to you, so you will have this information handy. You can reach out to these delegate agencies for assistance in completing the application, submitting the application. They are a resource throughout the entire process that you're working through the SBIF grant. So please feel free to reach out. Here we have the list of districts that are open for the month of June. We are currently accepting applications through June 30th at 5 p.m. Please make sure you submit your applications before then. The districts open are Clark and Montrose, Little Village Industrial, Midwest, Stony Island Burnside Industrial, and Toohey Western. Here we have a sample project out in the Stony Island and Burnside TIF. This is Chicagoland Ham, located at 8615 South Stony Island Avenue. Here we have a few pictures before the renovations, and here are pictures after the renovations. The project summary for work completed included the installation of a new storefront system, a new insulated overhead door and new steel entry door, replacing the concrete slab at the entryway, roofing repairs, facade renovations, including masonry work, painting of the trim, tuck pointing, and electrical work with new outlets and exterior light fixtures. On the interior, there was a completion of two new renovations of two new restrooms, painting of the ceiling, and an application of an epoxy flooring system. SBIF facts. What additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? While it's not required when submitting the initial application form, please note that these items are required to complete the SBIF application process. The required documents vary depending on the applicant type. So for example, if you are operating your business, we would ask for business tax returns. We would ask for a City of Chicago business license. Some of these documents are provided by SummerCore. We have templates, and some of these items will come directly from you. So we will provide a list of the items that will be required based on your applicant type, but some of these things should be readily available to you. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of business income and expenses for the first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with startup business applications. So if you've only been in business for 1 to 2 years, SummerCore requires tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business or property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from the City of Chicago property taxes. If your business or property is in another area, please call that city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small business. What if the building has both business and residential spaces? This program is for business use, but there are mixed-use exceptions. Many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? The answer is no. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as other financial assistance programs like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or Chicago Recovery Plan grants on the same project covering the same scope of work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project, provided that you stay within the grant timeline requirements. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each TIF district that has SBIF funds authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for the SBIF funds is greater than the available funding supply, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application can be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to the waitlisted applicants. Is there SBIF funding available in your district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has TIF funds available and if there's a demonstrated need for more grant money. We also maintain an interested parties list for funds, which you can also send an email to sbif@summercore.com to join. When more funding becomes available or the city allocates more funds, we will let you know. The interested parties list helps the City of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I am in a TIF and it is not a SBIF? Tax increment financing, known as TIF, is the mechanism that funds the SBIF program. So if you are in a TIF district and it does not have a SBIF, please contact your alderman. Here we have the contact information for the SBIF team, including Nora Curry, who is the director on the city's end with the Department of Planning and Development. There are 2 websites here with SBIF information. The Chicago's website does have Google Translate available. There are resources available in many other languages. So thank you again for joining us. A copy of the presentation and a link to the video will be emailed to all attendees. So we can get started with the question and answer session now.
Thank you, Sylvia. Once again, during this portion, if you have any questions, please ensure to place them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. So Sylvia, at this time, we would like to, get the conversation started with some common questions. So what are the common challenges that applicants face in this program?
So the biggest challenge is the fact that this is a reimbursement grant, so you do have to have the upfront financing available to you. So don't get discouraged if you don't have the funds available at the moment. However, you want to start seeking financing as soon as possible. I suggest reaching out to your current bank, letting them know you're participating in this BIF program and seeking the financing to bridge that gap until you receive the reimbursements. Another challenge is finding contractors and architects. So you can shop around for contractors and architects. Please do your research on these companies. Make sure that they are properly licensed and insured. It's good to also request, referrals from other people, information, testimonials, pictures of work that's been previously completed. We do have a list that is provided to you of licensed contractors. We require at least 2 contractors' estimates. However, I suggest you get as many as you possibly can. You get a better feel for the contractors, their knowledge of the work that they're doing, their responsiveness. So ultimately, you can decide who to work with, as long as their prices are within reasonable range.
Okay, thank you. Um, let's see. What if a person has completed their project before approval or submitting their application? Are they able to receive the reimbursement after the fact?
Unfortunately not. We do not retroactively disperse for work that was previously approved. So you do have to be approved prior to commencing any construction.
Okay, thank you. What would you suggest to a startup business that has not secured a property yet?
That is not secured a property. I would say to look for something that works best for you, not something that is based off of where you can get a grant. Nothing is really ever guaranteed. Even if you do fall within a TIF district, there's always a chance that you may be placed on the wait list. So I suggest maybe reaching out to a real estate agent, letting them know what your preference or needs are, and getting started from there. If it happens to fall within a TIF district, great. But I don't believe that should be your main focus. Find something that works for you, that works for the community, something, that may be, something that's not available in that community. We have areas that are like deserts with no grocery store. So if a grocery store makes sense, find a space that works for you first, and then look for other resources that may, financially provide assistance to you.
Okay, thank you. And then also, they wouldn't be able to apply until they have site control, correct?
That is correct. We do require site control to be submitted within the first stage, so we would not be able to move forward with the process unless you do have proof of site control.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk about eligible properties in regards to mixed use buildings? If they have a storefront building and they have residential above, would they be eligible to apply?
Yes, we do utilize mixed-use buildings for SBIF. However, we can only cover basically the shell of the building. So if it needs roof, masonry work, commercial ground level, actual storefront renovations can be covered. We can cover the facade, masonry work as well. Any interior of the residential units or windows to the residents will not be covered, but the interior of the commercial spaces can also be covered.
Okay, thank you. Um, How would it work with someone purchased a vacant lot? Would they be eligible to apply for SBIF?
They would not be eligible to apply for SBIF for a vacant lot because we do not cover any new construction. We only cover renovations, so it would have to be an existing building that's at least 3 years old that requires renovations. So for something like that, I suggest looking into the streamlined TIF program or reaching out to DPD or also your local alderman to see what resources are available.
Okay, thank you. We do have a follow-up question. Someone was wondering, what does the term site control mean as it pertains to um I guess ownership of the property or leasing the space?
Okay, so you basically have to prove to us that you have control over the site, meaning you have a executed lease agreement as a tenant. The term must be for at least 3 years from the time that you apply going forward. Now, that is in place to protect the applicant so that the applicant can utilize the space for at least 3 years after making renovations to the property. So what we do not want is for a landlord to come and say, okay, you've made the renovations to my place. This tenant will pay me more, so I need the space. So 3-year term is required for tenants. And also, if you own the property, we do need proof that you have ownership of that building. It can be either a warranty deed, a trust agreement, something to show that you actually own the property. So without that, we're unable to move forward with the process.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, this person has a basement under the retail space that needs to be renovated because due to flooding issues through the walls. Would that be the type of work that would be eligible under this program?
It all depends on whether or not the ground level is leased to an eligible business. If it's leased to an eligible business and they utilize the basement for their business, we can cover waterproofing.
Okay, so long as that is a space that's associated with their business, they should be fine.
Correct. Yes,
Got
and
it.
it does have to be eligible as well. So that's something that we'd also take into account.
Someone wanted to clarify, you mentioned this before, stating that applicants cannot have an NOF grant as well as a SPIF grant. Can you just explain more about that as it pertains to, I guess, utilizing this program if they wanted to apply for SPIF?
Sure. So basically, you cannot obtain two grants at the same time for the same property for the same scope of work that you're looking to do. So the way that SPIF works is you basically, let's say that someone applies for SPIF and they have received funding 3 years prior to applying for the program. So any funding that is received by the applicant within the 3 years prior to actually applying for the SPIF, it will be counted against you dollar for dollar. So basically, the grant will be reduced dollar for dollar depending on what you received. So, for example, let's say someone received a NOF grant for $50,000 a year ago. They apply for SPIF, they're eligible for $150,000. However, since they received 50,000 in NOF funds, that 50,000 would be deducted from what you'd be eligible for SPIF. So in this situation, you would be eligible for only $100,000 for SPIF. So you can't use the same two programs at the same time. With SPIF, any City of Chicago funding that was or is said to be dispersed will be basically counted against you and it will be reduced dollar for dollar.
Okay, thank you. We do have a follow-up question in regards to like new construction. Someone asked if the building is less than 1 year, would it still be eligible?
It would not be eligible. It would still be considered as new construction. The building has to have been already built, basically, with the certificate of occupancy, has to be at least 3 years old in order to qualify for SBIF. And at that point, the building should already have had all of the building mechanical systems built out. So it would be a renovation project it would have to be a renovation project in order to qualify for SBIF. So it couldn't be the actual build out of the initial HVAC system, the first time flooring is coming in, the first time that, they're installing outlets, things of that sort.
Okay, so just pretty much having proof that it's been occupied already before they can actually reapply for the grant program.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking a question. If they received NOF in 2018, but the project was recently completed, when does that 3-year period start? At the time of approval or completion?
It would start at the time of completion.
Okay. Someone is wondering if they would qualify if there currently are no stores in their building, they're just tenants. So I'm assuming they're the property owner and they have vacant storefronts. Would they be eligible to apply?
Yes, we can accept applications for vacant storefronts. However, in these situations, the property must be actually leased to a SBIF eligible business, and the business does have to be operating their business out of that space and properly licensed before we can disperse any funds.
Okay. Another question. So with the SPIF program, we do cover permanent renovations to a commercial property or industrial property. Would furniture be an eligible work item under this program for a bar or a restaurant?
No, we do not cover furniture. That would not be an eligible expense. The only items that I would mention that could be sort of equipment related that we can cover are for restaurants or commercial kitchens. We can cover fire suppression systems, exhaust hoods, and also walk-in coolers and freezers. So those would be the only items that we can cover that are equipment related.
Okay, thank you. So anything that's more business specific would be that wouldn't be eligible under our program.
Correct. Anything that you can easily take out of the place will not be covered.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that is all the questions we have today. I definitely would like to thank everyone for attending the webinar today. And as a reminder, everyone attending will receive a copy of the presentation. And if you have any questions, you can definitely feel free to give us a call. Um, or you can send us an email. And then I also want to remind everyone that the deadline for submitting applications for the June acceptance period is June 30th at 5 p.m. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.